Oblast u životu je isto, mislim, nezavisno da li tenis, sport ili bilo šta drugo u životu, jednostavno smo mi društvo, komforističko društvo, prosto nekako nam uvijek prija da se priključimo stadu nego da izađemo iz stada i da kažemo, pa ljudi, ovo nije pravedno, ovo nije istinito, podići ću glas i pokušat ću da se borim za nekog drugog koji ima manje sreće od mene, ali mnogi ljudi, nažalost, velika većina bira onaj lakši put, bira da prosto samo brine o sebi, a ne o drugima, pošto smo mi deo individualnog sporta, to je još nekako izraženije kod nas. Ali dobro, mislim, meni to ne smeta, ja znam ko sam, šta sam i šta je pravedno i znam da se za to borim, tako da nije mi prvi put niti posljednji, a znam da sam mnogima trn u oku, jer pokušavam i ja sam da raskrikam taj jedan monopol koji je u tenisu već dugi niz godina. Malo ljudi priča, evo vidite sportske medije, teniske medije, ne pričaju uopšte koliko igrača živi od ovog sporta. Se pričaju koliko Djokovic, Federer i ne znam Nadal zarađuju i tako dalje, ali se priča o tome da je tenis treći najpopularniji sport na svetu i da zarađuje, da je van 10 na svetu u odnosu na koliko zarađuju, u odnosu na druge sportove. Znači, jedva 150 igrača, maksimum 200 žive od ovog sporta, muškom i ženskom tenisu. Dajte mi 200 igrača i 150 igrača u bilo kojem drugom sportu globalno i vidite koliko zarađuju. Tako da, ta organizacija igrača i sve što smo pokušali to kroz tu inicijativu da ostvarimo i što pokušavamo da ostvarimo i zašto se zaležemo i upravo zbog tih momaka i devojaka koje se trude da njihov glas bude kako da kažem, saslušan, ali nažalost ne sluša ih, jer elita će uvek da uzdiže elitu i to tako ide u krug, ali zato je tu neki mali od Srbije da se malo umeša u priču.
Novak and his team filed the same type of documents as those 25 other tennis players, and they didn't have any problems, just Novak. They wanted to humiliate him. They could have said, "Don't come, Novak," and that would have been okay. But no, they wanted to humiliate him, and they're still keeping him imprisoned. He's not in detention, he's in prison. They took all of his stuff, even his wallet. They left him with just a phone and no change of clothes, nowhere to wash his face. He's in prison. Our pride is a prisoner of these idiots. Shame on them. The whole free world, together with Serbia, should rise. This isn't a battle for Serbia and Novak. It's a battle for 7 or something billion people. For freedom of expression, free speech, freedom of behaviour. Novak didn't break any laws, just as 7 billion people didn't break any laws. They want to subdue us and throw us all on our knees. It won't fly. Freedom, Novak. We're all with you.
Alright, let's get to the latest from the Australian court. Djokovic's hopes of playing the Australian Open seems to have been dashed after a court unanimously rejected his appeal. Now, Djokovic's appeal against the deputation order has been rejected in a unanimous verdict. Australian court judges have decided to uphold the government's decision. Djokovic's visa was initially cancelled on January 6th at Melbourne's airport, hours after he arrived to compete in Australian Open. And this is the latest. Remember, Djokovic did not qualify for a medical exemption from Australia's rule for unvaccinated visitors. So this is the latest as far as that big development coming in. Djokovic has lost his bid to avoid deportation from Australia. The court has unanimously rejected his appeal to stay in the country and defend Australian Open title. All right, for more on this, I am joined by Times of India's Gaurav Gupta on the broadcast. Gaurav, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. The verdict seems to be on expected lines, but is it certain that Djokovic will not play the Australian Open now?
Yes, good afternoon to you and all our viewers. Definitely, I think from here, Djokovic is not going to play in the Australian Open. In fact, I believe that he is now ineligible to play in the Australian Open for the next 3 years, because as per law he would not be allowed to enter Australia for the next 3 years, which is this is all overall an extremely sad development. But then this was coming, this was expected, considering that Joko has been the second time around. Firstly, he was not vaccinated. Then he provided false documents. Claimed that his team didn't provide the right documents, or he did not inform them for his visa. He did not inform about his about his trip to Spain before he entered Australia in the last 15 days. He was struck by COVID, and then he attended an event in which children were also around. He gave an interview when he was COVID infected, a physical interview. So keeping all these things in mind, I think the first time round he was lucky to escape. There was public sympathy with him. He was suddenly kept in a deportation center, detained and sort of not kept in healthy conditions. But the second time around, once I think all these facts came to light, that his team had lied about certain facts of his, which had been provided to ensure that he gets a visa. Once those things came to light, it was apparent that the Australian government is not going to hold back. The Australian government was already miffed about the fact that the court had allowed him to get away despite not being vaccinated and play in the Australian Open, because the Australian government is pretty clear on this. They have a strict vaccination policy. They have they have done their best to keep COVID out of their country, and they have a 90% vaccination rate in their country. The amount of infection rates is pretty low. Even if 5-10 people get infected in a city, it is treated as an outbreak. So for a country like that, they've been extremely strict about these things, and credit to them that they did not bend the rules. Even though the organizers tried to bend the rules, the government did not try to bend the rules for a legend of the sport, because their stand is pretty clear that if you allow Joko to get away today by not being vaccinated and play in the tournament, then you're sort of encouraging thousands of anti-vaxxers to also do the same thing and not get vaccinated and make Joko their hero. Now, this cannot be allowed. In fact, this should not be allowed in any part of the world, because as far as possible,
Yes.
vaccination is the only cure, as much as we know, to disease. It cannot be taken lightly, and you cannot allow role models in any walk of life to get away without being without following the rules which are normal to which all of us are following. And remember, the Australian public has also gone through multiple lockdowns in the last 2 years. They have been cut off from the world. Australia and New Zealand have been virtually cut off from the world. They've lost out on millions of dollars due to loss of tourism and everything. So keeping all this in mind, I think it's a fair verdict, and the Australian government has sort of won this round handsomely. And now let's hope that this is the end of it, and the tournament now takes place from tomorrow. It will take place in the shadow of this massive controversy, but let's hope that the focus now shifts to tennis.
Absolutely, Gaurav. That's a very important point you made there. I'm also joined by senior sports journalist Vedam Jaishankar on the broadcast. Vedam, thank you for rightly saying that Australia has put in place very, very strict measures, and they have made a point that irrespective of your stature, irrespective of your stardom, rules are rules. What is your view on this verdict that has come, unanimous verdict of the Australian court that Djokovic has lost his appeal yet again?
Do whatever, protect their country, and they have to do what is necessary. I have no quarrel with that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But having said that, I think the way they have handled this Djokovic issue is really ridiculous, because you have allowed him to come to your country. He shouldn't have even boarded the flight. Forget about landing in that flight. He shouldn't have even boarded the flight. They should have stopped him then and there if that was the intention. But I think what has really happened right now is they milked the publicity for the tournament to the maximum. And there are the Australian Open this year will get far more eyeballs. Already it's got far more eyeballs than it has ever got all this time. And that is a tragedy. If you have made use of a champion player, really, really, really sad case. But unfortunately, that's how the world is moving. And it's really sad that Djokovic has to be made use in this way. Of course, he is anti-vaccination. Everybody knew that even before he got onto the flight. But why did you allow him to get onto the flight? This morning I was reading a poll. I don't know if it was a serious poll or made in jest. And it suggested that 52% of the Australians wanted to deport their Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, rather than Djokovic. So I think opinions may be divided on that. Australia may want to stay safe. There's nothing wrong with that. Every country would like to stay safe. There's nothing wrong with that. We expect that to happen. We expect the government to back them. We expect the sports authorities to back them. But the fact that they've allowed Djokovic to come all the way, they've cleared him. 2 medical councils have cleared him. The Victorian government has cleared him. And after that, he has come in, and then you've stopped him. You're a monkey out of
Milena, good to have you on this morning, because clearly you had a bit more understanding of what was actually going on in the courtroom this morning. Just explain exactly what we heard and what it means.
Well, just about, Neil. I've been listening to these court hearings for a few days now, but essentially what the judge said that Novak Djokovic has lost this case. He will have to leave Australia now. We know that he's potentially facing a 3-year ban, but an important point by the judge was that he wasn't really adjudicating on the merits of the government's case, whether Djokovic should stay in the country or not. He was reviewing, it was a judicial review, to see if the minister had made the decision appropriately in a rational manner. And having spoken to legal experts ahead of this trial, hearing really, they were saying that barring the government making a procedural mistake, it was incredibly unlikely for Djokovic to actually be able to be successful and stay in the country. As we've seen now, it was a unanimous decision by the 3 judges, which means there's no further recourse for this case to be heard again, and he will be deported from Australia, potentially facing a 3-year ban. It's a really disastrous end to what has been chaotic 10 days for the world number 1. So it remains to be seen when he will be actually deported from the country. But at the moment, we believe that he will probably be taken to detention, and this is sure to reverberate in his home country of Serbia, which has really been standing by him, including the government with the Serbian president on Friday, basically accusing the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison of using this case for his own political gain. But certainly a controversial decision in Serbia, many people supporting him out there, but this is the end of the road for Novak Djokovic in Australia this year at least.
This is Sparta!